my name is Jo Painter, and I am so happy to introduce a brand new series here on the People Chronicles. And the series is brought to you by Berks Women in Crisis. It's called The Place You Start. And with me this afternoon is an associate director at Berks Women in Crisis, Christine Gilfillin. Very nice to see you again, Christine.
Thank you so much.
Thank
it's
you.
Great to see you too.
Yeah, and I'm so glad
We're
that
not on the
you've joined
radio
us.
anymore.
No. There's that thing over there, but we get to say hello to you. Christine, you'll also be the host of this new series.
Yes.
For Berks Women in Crisis.
Yes.
The Place You Start. Why that? Why is Berks Women in Crisis the place you start, and start what?
That's a really good question. We had a discussion about that. We had a discussion about how our goal for this series was to bring awareness to the services and the programs that we provide at Berks Women in Crisis. And we also discussed the fact that sometimes people in the community may view us as a shelter and a hotline with crisis services, but not be aware of the breadth of services and educational programs that we provide. So this is our 40th anniversary.
Happy anniversary!
Yes,
Get
yes,
out, really?
40 years,
Wow.
And we are engaged in a deliberate and planned series of events called the Healthy Village Project to bring awareness to everything that we do, including crisis services and beyond. So this podcast or video series is another way that we can get the word out to the community that we are crisis services and shelter, and we're so much more. We're a place that you can start to learn about domestic violence, to learn about sexual assault, or to seek services before it becomes a crisis as well.
It's interesting when you say learn about domestic violence or learn about sexual assault. That's kind of telling me we might think domestic violence is one thing, specifically like tunnel visioned. Well, if I'm punched, that's domestic violence. But maybe there's more to it. There's a broader parameter. Is that the case?
That's absolutely the case. There's much more to it. There are many different behaviors or strategies or issues of abuse that people face that go beyond physical abuse. So you're right, sometimes we narrowly define it. If we are able to more broadly define it and get that information out to the community, other individuals or other people experiencing violence of that sort and other sorts may see us as a resource to turn to for counseling, for more information, in addition to the crisis services that we've been well known for.
When you broaden the scope, there may be women living an experience that they think is normal and not realizing there's a different normal, and what they're living could be leading down the wrong road, so to speak.
Right, or just that maybe there's a gut feeling they have that something is not right or not going well with that relationship. But again, if it doesn't fall under those traditional parameters of what we think of as domestic violence or what is criminal behavior, they might not understand that there could be help available wherever they are on that spectrum of what they're experiencing, that help is available and information is available. Support.
Hence, the place you start to learn about this. Do you work with children?
We do.
And on some levels, how do you work with children?
We do. And for 40 years, we've worked with the children who are with their mothers primarily, sometimes their fathers, or a caregiver, but also often their mothers in our shelter. So we've worked with them on a daily basis since we opened our shelter back in, I think it was 1980.
Right.
And now we work with children in counseling as well. We have a new project where we're working with child survivors of sexual assault, providing counseling for that specific group of children. So yes.
There's a big umbrella here at Berks Women in Crisis.
We also work with children in our educational programs, and since 1997, we've been doing educational programs for children and young people of all ages, from elementary school age up to college age.
You just talked about, and you were very specific about years. Well, we started this in this year, and we started this in this year. So in the span of 40 years, you've grown according to the needs as they've presented themselves to serve this community? How did you make those decisions to expand services or open this door and develop a program over here?
That's a really great question. Yes, according to the needs that are expressed by survivors and by victims coming in. Also, in 1994, I believe it was, we passed the Violence Against Women Act.
Oh.
And at that point,
Again,
there was...
congratulations. No,
Well,
wait
we
a
didn't
minute.
pass
Are
it,
you
but
telling me
the federal government passed the Violence Against Women Act,
in what year?
1994.
That says a lot right there. Because I'm thinking, I've lived a long time, I don't want to say how long before 1994. And up until then, it wasn't, we actually needed an act to let people know this isn't acceptable?
Well, primarily yes, it did that, but it also opened up government funding streams and government support for the needs of victims and survivors of these crimes or of these behaviors, even if they don't rise to the level of crimes. So at that point, we'd already been around for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Garnering support as we went along, growing our programs as we could. We had growth before that, but that was kind of a turning point in terms of the acknowledgement by the federal government that this was an issue that we were all responsible for. It became political, but it also opened up streams of support and funding to be able to grow our services.
Which is huge. Legal
services, additional counseling services, additional crisis response services. And that's grown over the years.
So while here in Reading, Berks Women in Crisis has specific facilities, but what you offer is much more than a safe house or a safe place, it sounds like. In the 40 years, in your experience, Christine, has education, awareness, reaction, behaviors of people in this community where you're serving changed a bit? Has there been some enlightenment?
Absolutely.
You're seeing growth and more people jumping on board?
Absolutely.
Good.
We've always had tremendous community support, but it has grown over the years.
Good.
And when we instituted educational programs, that was in 1997. So as our programs expanded and our profile in the community expanded, perhaps we were touching more people with our programs.
Right.
That support grew as well. And now we have a tremendous amount of community support. It's not all about the government funding. We wouldn't survive without that community support as well. And also the community collaboration. So another thing that the opening funding streams encourage is more community collaboration. So our collaborations with law enforcement and the healthcare community, all of that spreads the word and brings more people into our services as we work with those.
So connections are being made with people who need the services.
With people who need the services and also with other providers of services that we need to work with to make sure that all of the survivors or the victims' needs are met.
Right. How long have you been with BWIC? I say BWIC. That's our friendly, loving term for Berks Women in Crisis. I should say that.
I've been an employee since 2001.
Since 2001. And I can only imagine it could be draining work. You're dealing sometimes, not always, but sometimes with tragic situations or a lot of very stressful situations.
Yes.
So what keeps you coming back? It's got to be exhausting.
It can be. We acknowledge that, and we do our best to put pieces in place to help people as they do the work, as all other crisis responders do.
Correct.
But I think what keeps me coming back and what keeps a lot of people coming back is a commitment to the mission or to the goal of, the ultimate commitment would be to a society where this violence no longer occurs. That's a lofty goal.
I want to say it's attainable. Do you see that as attainable?
I see it as attainable if we all get on board. A lot of things need to happen in order for that to happen, but I see it, we have to believe it's attainable someday.
Right.
But in the meantime, sometimes it's about the individual people that we're able to assist every day, or about when you see the light bulb go on in the head of a young person who now understands more about the issues or about what constitutes a healthy relationship.
I feel
it's
like
about
you're
all those
empowering
seeds you
women.
plant.
When you talk about light bulbs going off and changes, you're empowering women to take charge of their own life. And
we
blossom
should be
and
really
flourish.
clear. We should be really clear also that is the goal. That is what we
Oh.
do. We operate on an empowerment model. So it's really about bringing the resources together, the support, the safety planning, and then helping survivors to make their own decisions about how they want to move forward with their lives. So that's why we do it.
That's also
right?
very
We've all been
interesting.
there in some way,
yes.
shape or form. We've
Yes.
been there. So.
But you left it with and help the women make their own decisions. So you're not telling anybody what to do
No.
or what they should do. You're just giving them the information.
Giving them the information, perhaps giving them
Tools.
tools, support as they make those decisions, helping them to work through what might happen. Not that we ever know for sure, but
right. To kind of visualize the
right, because in
process
a domestic violence situation, you're disempowered.
yeah.
And as women in a world that is more male-dominated,
Speaking
see
of
women
males,
as a group, we've been disempowered. So
yeah.
empowerment is what it's all about.
I have to bring
So-
up males though quickly, and I know we're running out of time, and I want you to. I'm anxious to hear the stories of all of your guests, but males have been brought into the fold at Berks Women in Crisis. I know that you've done
Absolutely.
a number of events in the community, and men are really jumping on board and saying, no, this is not acceptable, and supporting the entire mission.
They are, and we also serve male victims. I want to be really
Wow.
clear about that. Not all victims of domestic violence are women, the majority are, but we serve male victims as well. It would be the same empowerment approach.
I never thought of that, actually.
So yes, we serve male victims. That's an area of outreach that needs to grow, quite frankly. And also there are men, so many men who are committed to the cause coming into the fold to stand alongside us as we do the work, or be our staff members
Right,
or our board
right.
members, all of that.
I'm looking forward to this series, Christine. It's called The Place You Start, brought to you by Berks Women in Crisis, celebrating 40 years, so happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And grateful for the work that you're doing in the community and making a difference. So if you want to make a difference, this is the place you start. Come back each week for a new story with your host, Christine Gilfillin. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to The Place You Start. We have guests stopping by each week. Check in again for more stories at berkswomenincrisis.org. And be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.